G'day, battlers, and today we are already jumping in for a tournament that I did in the Ember Cup. This is essentially getting a little bit of practice for the Silph Arena's January monthly meta, which is the Ember Cup, previously known as the Ember Field. I guess still known as the Ember Field because it's going on in factions and the Silph Arena at the same time. So because I've been playing as the Ember Field specialist for my faction for the first 2 weeks of factions, I have a little bit of experience and I sort of know what I like and what I don't like a little bit, still learning a few things here or there. But essentially how this video is going to work is I'm going to talk about my team and sort of how I've put it together, and then I will jump into the battles. I will look at sort of why I'm picking the Pokemon I am, etc, etc. So if you want to skip straight to the battles, it's all in the progress bar down below, timestamped, so skip straight to the battles if you want. But first off, just sort of talking about the team here. So my team in the bottom right is Hisuian Quillfish, which is just the meta mainstay. Like, it is essentially the Pokemon you have to bring because it is just the best safe swap in this entire meta. It is basically impossible to have a hard counter to Hisuian Quillfish. Like, if you sort of peek ahead and look at the rest of the 11 Pokemon, I guess, that are sort of in front of us, none of them are really hard counters to Quillfish because it is just really powerful with either Poison Jab or Poison Fang as a fast move, and then Aqua Tail and Shadow Ball are the charge moves you're generally running with. Aqua Tail is just really spammy, and Shadow Ball is just sort of there as some fighting coverage, I suppose. It does a little bit of a harder hit, but I feel like most of the time you're kind of going for Aqua Tail a lot anyway. But Shadow Ball is definitely a good move to have. I'm also running Gligar with Night Slash in return. It's a little bit of a generalist. It does good things well when it's in a good spot, but it can be a little bit rough because it takes a long time to get up to that return, and Night Slash doesn't really hit much for super effective in this meta. There is a little bit, like Runerigus is around, which is my number 3 pick. To be honest, I'm not a huge Runerigus fan. Like, I'm still running it on my team. I've run it in these last 2 weeks of factions, but I just haven't enjoyed it too much, and I might end up swapping it out for something else, maybe Charizard or something. But I'm not a huge fan of it. I do use it in this tournament, and so we'll see that in a little bit. But you're running Sand Tomb, which is a little bit of a... I mean, I guess it's a little bit of a sim hero because you want to throw the Sand Tomb, get the shield, you debuff their defense, and then you sort of land this big nuky Shadow Ball. So it's a little bit... it's a bit of finesse to actually use it properly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Then comes Poliwrath. Poliwrath is also like probably potentially even better than Hisuian Quillfish in this meta. It is just so good, and it's got 3 charge moves that are sort of good in this meta. The thing about Silph Arena tournaments is that you have to lock in your moveset at the start of the tournament, as opposed to factions where you can actually change your moveset depending on what your opponent has. Because you have to lock it in, you have to sort of think about what 2 out of the 3 moves you want between Ice Punch, Scald, and Dynamic Punch. They've got different things that they do well. Scald gives you some really nice fire coverage. Ice Punch gives you coverage against Trevenant and some of the other flyers. And then Dynamic Punch gives you a better mirror match against other Poliwraths, and then also hits that Hisuian Quillfish a little bit harder. In this tournament, I'm running Scald and Dynamic Punch. That is because those are the movesets I was running in my last faction bout, because they were the moves that were best against my opponent. Didn't really need Ice Punch, and so I've decided to keep those movesets. We'll keep that moveset here, see how I like it, see how it goes. And to be honest, I'm kind of a fan. I might experiment around a little bit with Ice Punch and see whether I might prefer running that in my tournaments, but we'll just have to wait and see for another sort of a bit more practice to make a decision on that one. Then comes Piloswine. Piloswine also just a little bit more flyer coverage. Has Avalanche, which actually does a fair amount of damage to Hisuian Quillfish. As we'll see in this video, I didn't realize how much Avalanche did to Hisuian Quillfish, but the answer is it does quite a lot. It's also got access to high horsepower, brand new move. Oh, not a little, I guess it's a relatively new move, but it was given to Piloswine for the first time in the December Go Battle League move update, and can just hit Hisuian Quillfish, just nuke it out of existence if you happen to be in that sort of like you've got energy and then it's a closing out scenario. But it does an okay amount of damage as well against pretty much everything else that isn't flying. Last spot on the team is something that I'm experimenting with in this tournament. If you're not familiar with Matthew Brewer, he does a series of videos on all of these Silph metas, and in their latest video that came out, I think yesterday, maybe this morning, maybe like just a couple hours before the tournament that I watched, they were talking about Hisuian Quillfish for part of us. They were talking about Hisuian Electrode for a little bit of it, as sort of this electric grass type that sort of has really nice Poliwrath coverage, especially for Poliwraths that aren't running Ice Punch. And also gives a bit more flyer coverage. And so I really wanted to just give it a go. I'm gonna spoil the answer here, I guess, for the people who have listened to this preamble as opposed to skipping to the battles. I don't love Hisuian Qwilfish, and to be honest, I'm probably not going to use it again. I really wasn't a big fan of it, even though like Wild Charge is a nice nuke. It just sort of didn't work out for me. There was too much stuff that was doing too much damage to it, is sort of how I felt about it. I do try it out like here or there through this tournament. I might only use it twice, maybe 3 times, but yeah, I haven't come away as a big Hisuian Electrode fan, and I might need to see someone else do something a little bit better for it. So this team was like almost entirely just taken from my factions, except I had Surfetch in week 1. It was a little bit too squishy for my liking, so I switched it for Machamp in week 2. Didn't end up using Machamp in those factions battles, so I've just sort of used that 6 slot to try something else in that Hisuian Electrode. So yeah, with that said, we'll sort of jump into the battles. Welcome in timestamp skippers. We're up against I Troll Myself A, who was an elite ranked battler. This is actually really like I had a stacked run through this tournament. I had to take on 2 elites in round 1 and 2, and then I was in the finals. I mean, I'm assuming that I did spoil in the title that I came second in this tournament. So I did get to the finals facing through 2 elite trainers, and the finals is probably one of the most interesting teams that I've seen yet. I think it is the most interesting team I've seen in Ember Cup. And the fact that it was successful without using a lot of the main meta picks is definitely something that is going to be, I'm pretty interested. And I kind of want to give it a go, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that team when we get there. So round 1, the opponent has Charizard, Hisuian Qwilfish, Poliwrath, Piloswine. It says Zapdos, and then they've also got Surfetched. It turns out they thought they had Galvantula on their team, not Zapdos. They bring it once. It is what it is. It's an unranked tournament, so it doesn't matter too much. But yeah, I told them after, like, hey, you actually registered Zapdos, and they were like, oh. But yeah, they will use Galvantula in place of it. It doesn't really change anything as far as how the battle sort of go. But yeah, let's jump into game 1, where I think I'm just going to be running the sort of Poliwrath, Hisuian Qwilfish duo core that I'm running in almost all of these battles, if not all of these battles, to be honest. And then I'm just bringing in Hisuian Qwilfish as a bit of a tryout. Because they've got double flyer and Poliwrath, I figured, hey, may as well try it out now, even though one of those flyers is Charizard. And, I mean, Drill Peck from Zapdos still hurts. But turns out they didn't have it. So, anyway, let's jump into the battles. Round 1 up against I Troll Myself A. I don't know if that's Canadian Flair or what, but we've got Qwilfish into Poliwrath in the lead. Not a good lead matchup, so we're going to try and swap to catch a move. It takes 6 mud shots to get up to either charge move, but because they're an elite ranked battler, I went 1 further and then swapped, and lo and behold, we do end up catching the move onto Poliwrath. Elite battlers know that those swaps catches can come, so they tend to just go a little bit past, especially when my Qwilfish couldn't threaten with the Shadow Ball yet. They end up swapping into Qwilfish of their own, which is pretty good for us, especially because we've got this dynamic punch here to do a fat chunk of damage. Like, look at all of that. Like, that brings it right down to the red, and because we've got dynamic punch instead of just Scald, we're actually going to be able to shield up here and then just mud shot the rest of the health down. So that's what I actually quite like dynamic punch in this meta, and that's sort of the main reason why. Watch this in Aqua Tail. Here comes the Poliwrath, and we're going to throw a dynamic punch to do a bit of damage to this Poliwrath as well. Just bring it down a little bit, and then I don't think we're going to swap. I think we'll see. The thing is, I Troll Myself has to go for the charge move to take me out before I get to 1, because the fast moves just aren't doing any damage. And they have to throw the Scald, which makes me think they have Scald Dynamic Punch, because otherwise you could probably just go for the Ice Punch there. I bring in the Electro to try and get some energy, and they reveal they've got Piloswine in the back, which is not what I wanted to see with Electrode at all, because they just need to get to 1 Avalanche, and that super effective damage is going to take me out. Luckily, I get an Energy Ball off to get 1 shield, but at this point, we're just going to have to let Electrode go and sort of hope and pray that our Qwilfish in the back can sort of clean this thing up. We need to get to, it takes 2 Aqua Tails to take this Piloswine out, and they've got 1 shield. They're probably going to keep their shield for the Poliwrath, because their Poliwrath is going to be able to do more damage against my Qwilfish. So we go for the second Aqua Tail here. They actually burn the shield here, wanting to get an Avalanche off from the Piloswine. So, I mean, this... I've just remembered what happens here, and it's a little bit unfortunate for me, but instead of waiting again, this time we went straight for the Aqua Tail, and this time we were the ones whose move got caught. Aqua Tail does a little bit of damage there because we didn't know Bubbles. Poison Jab down, and we try and get back up to that Aqua Tail, but unfortunately that Piloswine just has barely too much health and is going to take us out here. So If we sort of stayed cool and collected and just didn't throw the move, I think we would have won that by poison jabbing down the Poliwrath and throwing Aqua Tail onto Piloswine, but you live and you learn. Here's the Galvantula that is not a Zapdos in disguise, and we've got Qwilfish into the Galvantula, which isn't a terrible matchup. Lunge definitely really does hurt, but we're going to try and do a bit of damage with this Aqua Tail first. Bring it down into the yellow. Here comes the Lunge. And then we can sort of make a few different decisions here. We can just stay in and do a few poison jabs and get Volt Switch down. But they actually end up swapping into Hisuian Qwilfish of their own. So we swap into Poliwrath to sort of act as that fighter role, soak up all this damage. That was a little bit quick, I felt, so I figured it's just going to be an Aqua Tail, try and get some damage in before we sort of take them out with a Dynamic Punch. But we're going to take that opportunity to just farm up more energy. They throw another Aqua Tail, so we're like, okay, we can soak this too. That was really quick. And then farm up a little bit more energy. Don't want to max out and go over 100. Throw the Dynamic Punch here that I think does take out Hisuian Qwilfish from this range. Yeah, down it goes. And then in comes probably the Galvantula to farm up a little bit more energy. Luckily, we have a fair chunk of energy as well, so we've sort of got the option to throw a move here. Farm up. Oh, we're farming a lot here. Okay, bringing our Poliwrath's health down nice and low so that they don't have much to farm on later. Throw the Scald. They're just going to let it go because they don't really want to protect that, protect the Galvantula. We actually get to the Dynamic Punch on this Piloswine, which is absolutely huge for us because it's really going to force that shield out of I Troll Myself A. And now we're going to be able to bring our Piloswine in, and they didn't get that many Powder Snows, and we've got a shield advantage. So basically, they need to get to 2 avalanches to take our shields, and then a third one to take us out. We just need 1 avalanche to burn the shield, and then 1 more to take it out. So essentially, this game is sort of set and match. For some reason, I tried to make a fancy catch onto Qwilfish. I think it's a bit of a BM. It's not gonna give them enough Powder Snows to get up to that avalanche they need. But it was probably riskier than it should have been. I should have just played it straight, played it normal. But either way, we're going to be able to burn the shield here on this avalanche, and then throw this avalanche to take out the opposing Piloswine, and that'll put us at a 1-1 position. We ditched the Hisuian Electrode from this round because we're just like, yeah, it's not safe here, too much danger. So we sort of leave that as we go into game 3, where we actually lead the Runerigus into Poliwrath, and this doesn't go to plan, so we kind of want to charge up some energy, maybe throw a Sand Tomb to bait a shield out of the Poliwrath, but here comes a charge move that we're going to have to respect because Scald does a lot of damage here. I think we still haven't seen their second move, so unclear if they have Dynamic Punch or Ice Punch, but either way, we go for the Shadow Ball Nuke here, actually, try and get that big damage off onto Poliwrath, and then what we want to do is catch a move onto Poliwrath, but it turns out I suck at counting. Was one, they had 1 more than I thought they did, and so now we end up burning a second shield to keep Runerigus around and just Shadow Claw down. In comes Piloswine though, and it does give us the opportunity here to throw a Sand Doom to get that defense down. And at this point, again, we're sort of in a spot where they actually burn a shield, which is a bit interesting. I don't think I guess they were scared of a Shadow Ball, but yeah, Sand Tomb doesn't do that much to Piloswine, and unfortunately, because we were going up to the Shadow Ball, they were able to avalanche us down, but now that it's defense debuffed, we're in a pretty okay spot, so we bring in the Hisuian Qwilfish. They actually have Surfetch in the back, so they've gone pretty spicy here. Surfetch is really squishy though, which is why I didn't like it personally in this meta. So that Aqua Tail does a ton of damage, and basically we're just going to stay in, just let the damage come through on Hisuian Qwilfish, and try and mud shot down the Surfetched with a Poliwrath, and then it turns out it was just I'm not sure what happened there, because their Surfetch is gone now. I don't think I mud shot it down, so maybe a Poison Jab. Oh, the Poison Jab damage went through and took it out maybe. But here's the Piloswine. We have Poliwrath coming in. Poliwrath is going to be able to tank a move from this Piloswine. Avalanche is going to be able to soaked up. So then we just need to get to... Oh, it's actually a high horsepower. So it does a lot of damage, but also uses a lot of energy. And now we're able to get to the Scald, which is going to take out... I think it just takes out this Piloswine, which will secure us round 1. I think. Maybe it's not quite. No, it does. Yeah, it definitely does. Takes out Piloswine, and that gives us round 1. So GG's to I Troll Myself A. And here comes Elite Battler number 2. CEO is a Beast 757, who's running Machamp, Poliwrath, Zapdos, probably for real this time, Hisuian Qwilfish, Piloswine, and Charizard. So you can see really incredibly similar to that last team, swapping out Surfetched for Machamp, and swapping out fake Zapdos for real Zapdos. And so we're sort of going to run it pretty similar, keeping that Hisuian Quillfish is the safe swap. Well, we're going to use it as a lead because it just sort of, it's a safe lead as opposed to a safe swap against this particular team. And then we're going to be packing that Poliwrath in the back. I'm not sure what we end up bringing in the back. I think we bring in the Piloswine, unless we try Electrode again. Maybe we'll see in a second. But we get the Hisuian Quillfish lead. We do have Piloswine again. And at this point, we see that they actually have Poison Sting while we have Poison Jab. So they get their energy faster, but we're doing a lot more damage with our fast moves. And the way this tends to go is that the Poison Jabber, which is us in this case, is going to win this matchup out, just because the Aqua Tails plus the Poison Jabs are sort of enough that, I guess it's the Poison Jab damage does enough to take out the opposing Quillfish before they get to an extra Aqua Tail. So you can see they've already got to 2 Aqua Tails. They throw this one, but we can soak it. And then we're going to be able to get to this Aqua Tail. We farm up a bit of extra energy because we know we can, but just before they get to their Aqua Tail, confident in our attack stat, and then throw this Aqua Tail to take them out. Even if they shielded though, we could have shielded back and then Poison Jab down and won the matchup anyway. But here's Poliwrath. Unfortunately, we do get farmed down, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. We'll bring in our Poliwrath to try and soak up this damage. We actually... Interesting play there from me, farming up a bit of energy, and then I guess trying to catch a move onto Piloswine is a bit of a sacrifice, recognizing that Poliwrath is probably going to be our main sort of MVP in this match. They try and catch the Avalanche onto Piloswine, but I mean, I guess we were throwing Avalanche anyway, so it didn't matter too much, but we farm up some extra energy first. That Avalanche does go through. They're going to take us down with a couple more Powder Snows, and we've got 2 shields, they've got 2 shields. Their Poliwrath, because they might have Dynamic Punch, even Scald, is a little bit scarier to us than these Avalanches that are going to be resisted from the Piloswine. So we decide to not shield there, let that move come through, throw the Scald now before they can sort of hit us again, just to try and take this Piloswine out so that we can have a full 2 shields against the opposing Poliwrath, while also having a fair amount of energy. I knew they had enough for a move there, so it's sort of a little back and forth-ish. We'll see how it goes. They've got Scald though, which doesn't do as much damage, and this is actually why, this is a demonstration of why Dynamic Punch is a really good move to have on your Poliwrath for that mirror. We burn the shield there. Dynamic Punch and Scald are both 50 energy, so it doesn't really, you don't need to bait with Scald or anything. Some people do to try and get the chance at the attack debuff, but I just don't think it's worth it. Just go straight for the Dynamic Punch in case they don't shield. And then this will probably burn CO's last shield. There's last shield, and then we're actually at a range where we will still survive a Scald, but CO as a beast will not survive a Dynamic Punch. So we'll be able to soak up all of this 50 energy, and then a couple more mud shots, and we'll be able to get to our Dynamic Punch, which will take out the Poliwrath, us just surviving, and it's just a really good use case of why Dynamic Punch is definitely pretty handy, where CO as a beast was running Scald and Ice Punch, as he sort of said later. Now I've got Hisuian Quillfish up against Piloswine in game 2. Not as awesome just because Avalanche does a lot of damage, as I said before, but I was still at a point where I didn't quite know how much Avalanche did. I'm not sure if this is the game that we find out, but I have a terrible feeling that it might be. But just farming away, actually swapping into the Poliwrath to try and catch the Avalanche there. Didn't work out, but it still means that we're able to throw a Scald onto this Machamp, which is still going to do a pretty fat chunk of damage. So he brings it down into the sort of, halfway into the yellow. At this point, we're just going to let, I think we're going to let whatever move come through. Cross Chop, we're going to resist. Do we resist it? We definitely resist the Rock Slide, but no. Cross Chop does a fair amount of damage at the Scald, but unfortunately Machamp is going to win CMP there. We didn't have quite enough energy, so we're just going to let it go. We know that their Machamp is sort of energy dry now, so we're just going to bring in Quillfish and just farm this thing down so that we have energy for the Piloswine that is presumably coming back in. So we're just going to sort of spam on the Aqua Tail, thinking that that's what's going to be, assuming that they're going to bring the Piloswine in, as opposed to the Poliwrath, which Aqua Tail would have been definitely the wrong move. a little bit unfortunate for us. But get the shield there. And now here's the Avalanche. I think at this point we're going to shield up here because in the back we have Hisuian Electrode, who is not going to do very well against this Piloswine. We're really just relying on our Poison Jab damage from our Hisuian Quillfish. So we burn our second shield, really trying to take this thing out, and actually see the swap into Poliwrath in the back. We're in a bit of an unfortunate spot because, again, CO as a beast is running Ice Punch Scald. and we take a fair bit of time to get to our move. So you can see it was already down to below half health. We're going to get one move off. Unfortunately, we're not quite able to get to 2 wild charges by the time that Poliwrath would get to a second Ice Punch. So we just have to, throw the wild charge in case they didn't shield at the CMP. And yeah, this Ice Punch is going to take us out. And then our Hisuian Quillfish does not have very much health in the back. So this is 2 for 2 games we actually get to the Shadow Ball. I don't think... this unfortunately still isn't going to be enough. I don't think. Poliwrath can barely take that and throw the move that's going to take us out here. So kind of close-ish, but we still would have had to take out the Pillar Swine in the back anyway. But yeah, Electrode now a 0 for 2 for the games that have brought it in. And we go the hard read with Runerigus in the lead against Machamp here. Great lead for us. They swap into the Poliwrath. We're going to, again, sort of go for the sort of Shadow Ball. We charge up, catch the move. Even better. Catching the Skull, presumably, onto the Poliwrath. It's actually just an Ice Punch, so it doesn't really matter to us because it's resisted. Like, we're not going to take much damage from it anyway. We've got a Dynamic Punch, so we obviously have the big advantage in this mirror match. There's the Scold. We do get attack debuffed, which was a little bit scary. I wasn't sure at the time how this sort of messed with the matchup. So we throw the Dynamic Punch here, and see, it still does a good amount of damage. We're going to need 2 Dynamic Punches still to take this Poliwrath out, so I don't think it really affected anything. I'm going to no-shield this because, again, we can tank it. We can just resist that damage, take it on the chin, throw another Dynamic Punch here. I think we're going for a little bit of an undercharge in case we could get a few mud shots, but not enough. And so we still end up taking it out. Here comes the Machamp. We're hoping that we can get to a charge move, but it wasn't going to happen. So now we're going to bring back in the Runerigus, sort of expecting a quick swap from CO as a Beast. So I'm ready on the trigger. They throw a counter, so we go, okay, and throw a Shadow Ball. See if we can happen to land it through and do a big chunk of damage. Does go through. So at this point, we're kind of like, okay, I mean, I think we can probably leave this Cofagrigus to, die, but they swap into Pillar Swine. We decide to throw a Sand Tomb before swapping out into the Hisuian Quillfish, just so we do a little bit more damage with the Poison Jab Aqua Tail combo. I don't think it actually matters, because I think it's still a case where you're throwing 2 Aqua Tails plus the Poison Jabs. But there's where I found out how much Avalanche did to Hisuian Quillfish, and so it actually is going to change things. We're not in a lovely spot here, so Aqua Tail, we're only going to get the 1. They burn their last shield, and then they're going to be able to farm us down, so it is up to Runerigus to clean us up here. We have 2 shields, but no energy. Can we get through is the question. That Poliwrath is going to be a little bit scary, so we kind of want to keep 1 shield for the Poliwrath. Maybe we can sort of force and take out this Pillar Swine ASAP so we can make sure they don't get to a second Avalanche. You're going to see how much Sand Tomb does here. Not enough to take it out. We sort of need another one. So unfortunately, Pillar Swine is forcing us to shield up here. So we're kind of like, okay, we'll see how this goes. Pillar Swine is energy dry now. There's the swap out into Machamp. We will be able to tank a cross chop if that's all it is. Rock Slide, we'll see. It is a cross chop, so we can tank it because of our ghost typing. We're going to be able to Shadow Claw down, and then we have enough energy that we're going to be able to throw the Sand Tomb onto the Pillar Swine, who was energy dry, and take out game 3 to take out round 2 against CO as a Beast with another 2-1. So taken on 2 elites so far, and we've taken them both on, but this is where it gets spicy. Let me show you Chobanov's team here with Pillar Swine, Tropius, Electivire, Alolan Muck, Machamp, and Talonflame. This team right here is also 2-0. Me and Chobanov are the only people that are 2-0 in this tournament. Again, I've already spoiled it. I've probably spoiled it in the title as well that I come second. So I'm going to lose here to this team right here that's got no Hisuian Quillfish, no Poliwrath. It is just such an awesome team. They've sort of substituted some of the other roles, like Charizard, really powerful flyer, even though we haven't really seen it in use in this tournament. Talonflame is just sort of like a step down in my opinion. They've got Alolan Muck here as the Dark Poison instead of Hisuian Quillfish. So I was really interested to see how this went, and I was kind of like, I'm in a win-win scenario here because either I win the tournament and I get great clickbait, or Chobanov wins, and that means that team over there has just like swept an Ember Cup tournament. So it was definitely I was pretty happy with the scenario. So I wasn't really sure what to do because these are definitely Pokemon that I'm unfamiliar with in the Ember Cup. So sort of just ran into it a little bit blind and sort of to see what we ended up having here. So we have Gligar in the lead and we get it onto the Machamp. So brilliant lead for us. So expecting a pretty quick swap out. They're staying in, so we're going to farm up, keep on farming. it's sort of not worth throwing a charge move so much. Like you could maybe go for Night Slash to get the boost, but return is just so much energy that it's kind of not worth it. We shield at the rock side and then they swap out. So we decide, well, may as well go for the return here, try and get that big neutral damage onto that Alolan Muck. They do unfortunately shield, but that just means we can swap into the Poliwrath. Now, this is going to be a mistake, but I'll describe this later. I'll sort of explain I guess I make an adaptation later. But we go for the Dynamic Punch, do a nice big chunk of damage onto that Alolan Muck. Not quite as much as Hisuian Quillfish, unfortunately. Alolan Muck has a little bit more beef to it, a little bit more bulky. So we can't do the classic throw a Dynamic Punch and Mudshot down. We do have to go for a second charge move. Unfortunately, CMP goes in favor of, I don't think it was CMP. I think it was just the move timings. So they're able to get their move off first. We let it go down so we can maybe bring in this Hisuian Quillfish, farm up a bit of energy. A little bit scary because we know that Machamp is sort of just waiting in the wings to come out, but we have an Aqua Tail, so we throw the Aqua Tail here. So kind of hoping that they've just let Machamp go, but they don't really have a reason to do that. So they burn the shield, we swap back into Gligar, and it turns out they have Piloswine in the back, which is just absolutely destroying our Gligar because of its ground and flying typing. Super duper effective against us. Night Slash not doing much at all. I'm not sure if... Actually, maybe we should have gone for the return. But either way, if we just went for 2 Night Slashes, do a bit of damage here. Bring it down to the red, but now that Piloswine has a lot of energy. We have to shield because, again, that is going to do a lot of damage to us. So we essentially need to get an Aqua Tail off to take on Piloswine, but then also still have enough energy to take on Machamp. I was kind of hoping that I could maybe do something there, like farm all the way down and then throw the Aqua Tail onto Machamp, but yeah, wasn't going to happen there, so that's GG's on game 1. We go in with the same lead Gligar into Machamp in game 2, still feeling pretty good about it. Again, we're sort of going to do something similar. I think this time I actually sort of decided to go the other way, and they've stayed in longer than last time. This is probably a Rock Slide again, but I was hoping it was a Cross Chop playing it differently. It was a Rock Slide, but it turns out we can actually tank it pretty well anyway. And so yeah, now they make the catch. We unfortunately went for Night Slash instead of Return. So they do catch this move onto Alolan Muck, which is a bit unfortunate for us. But this is the adjustment we make. We swap into a Hisuian Quillfish. So we use Quillfish as our Muck counter so that we can keep our Poliwrath for that potential Piloswine in the back. Just because, yeah, it just works out a little bit better that way. We can resist all of Alolan Muck's moves. So we can take this Dark Pulse on the chin, take it way better than we take an Avalanche from Piloswine, and then leave Poliwrath to sort of take the Avalanches and resist those moves. So we've just sort of swapped how we're using our Mons, sort of figuring out how to adapt to the lines they're running there. So we take out the Alolan Muck. Here comes that Machamp again. Because they stayed in a lot longer against Gligar, they're a lot lower now, so the Poison Jabs sort of feel more significant. We let this go. I'm going to bring in the Gligar to sort of just whittle it down. Again, we're sort of expecting a really quick swap, so we stay in. We actually decide to go for the return to try and burn one of the 2 shields off of Chobanoff here, so that, again, Poliwrath sort of has even more of an advantage up against that Piloswine. So down goes Gligar. Here comes the Poliwrath. We've got the shield advantage, and I think we get to 2 moves before Piloswine is able to get to 2 Avalanches. We actually shield the first one, just sort of in case it was the high horsepower. We kind of want to keep one shield for the blanking for the Machamp. So we go for that first Scald there. And we don't quite get to a second move. I'm sort of figuring this is going to be an Avalanche. So we decide to tank it. We know we can. Keep the shield for Machamp. And at this point, we kind of want to farm up as much energy as possible, but I'd lost track of how much energy that Piloswine had, so we just decided, 2 over is good enough. Throw the Scald. Take out the Piloswine. Here comes Machamp, and we just need to get to 1 more Scald, and this is going to be GG's. Even if they didn't have enough for 2 cross chops, so we would have been able to burn the shield in the first one and then 1 anyway. So that puts us at 1-1, which brings us into the final battle. Swapped into Poliwrath, thinking they'd bring Alolan Muck into the lead, but no, they brought in the Tropius, and we don't have Ice Punch. So we swap into the Piloswine there, and we get hard countered with the Machamp. This is already looking really bad for us. We tried to make a hard read, like we did in Game 3 against Seal as a Beast with Runerigus into Machamp, but it has not worked out for us at all. I mean, we picked that they swapped out of the Machamp lead. It just didn't go the way we thought. So we're just going to let this go, because if we didn't, we would have got a move, maybe got a shield, but we would have gone down anyway. At this point, we're kind of thinking, okay, we kind of need Hisui and Quillfish for the Tropius. So we'll kind of bring in Poliwrath here and use it up here. Keep shields for the back, because we are sort of also thinking that they might have the Piloswine, which Hisui and Quillfish, again, doesn't love taking avalanches from. So we're kind of like, oh, this is not looking great for us, but maybe we can do it. Throw the Scald, take out the Machamp, thinking they're going to go straight to Tropius. So we hard tap on that Hisui and Quillfish swap, trying to go in as soon as possible. Here's the Tropius as expected. They swap into the Piloswine. We do have the 2 shields still, so we're not in a terrible spot here, but we need to get the 2 Aqua Tails landed plus the Poison Jab. So first Aqua Tail does end up landing, which is really nice for us. We have to think about what Tropius might end up doing. What do we need? Do we need energy on Quillfish? Not really. Aqua Tail is not going to do very much. We need to get up to the Shadow Ball to do that big damage. I think both of Tropius moves do about a third of Quillfish's health here, so we sort of need to stay healthy enough that we can tank one. They decide to let Piloswine go. We kept a shield still, which is nice. Here comes that first charge move. You can see we're already getting pretty low with Quillfish, so a third plus the fast moves would put us in a pretty rough spot, with Tropius being able to get to a charge move pretty quick up against the Poliwrath. We try and go for the Shadow Ball here. We do get there, hoping that they think that this is an Aqua Tail bait and just let it come through and seal the deal for us, but unfortunately, they do shield here. We swap into Poliwrath, trying to catch the move there. We knew they were at it, but unfortunately, it just was not in the cards for us, so down it goes. In comes Poliwrath. Oh, we actually don't quite go down. Bringing the Poliwrath, who does not have Ice Punch. We're going to get this one Scald off here. We do win CMP. Is this going to be enough to take out the Tropius? Because we do get Stab. We get same type attack bonus. It brings it into the red. It is not quite enough though. This is really good though that they're going for the charge move, because it means they won't have the energy to go for it later. The question becomes, can we Poison Jab down with our little bit of health in the back? The answer, unfortunately, is no. We are not able to get that last. We would need one more Poison Jab. I was sort of wondering, maybe if we got the Scald attack debuff on the Tropius, maybe we could get another Poison Jab, but we were pretty low, so probably not. But yeah, Chobanov ends up taking off the tournament with a 3-0 with such an awesome team. Like, that's seriously so cool. I mean, look at it, look at this thing. Like, these are just not mons that you generally see in the Ember Cup. You see Piloswine, you see Machamp, the other 4 not so much. And I think it's really awesome because I've seen a lot of talk about Ember being a very condensed meta, everyone going for the same Quillfish, Runerigus, Poliwrath, Piloswine, Gligar, sort of like, the teams are very similar. So sort of, I mean, both round 1 and 2 opponents were almost identical teams, just with the fighter swapped from Surfetch to Machamp. Chobanov has really shown that you can win with Spice. You can do really well with Spice, especially because in these sorts of metas, you aren't prepared for these Pokemon. You don't really know what to do. You don't know how well does Hisui and Quillfish take a Dark Pulse from Alolan Muck. I've never been in that matchup before, so I don't really know. So it's sort of the blend between Silph Arena making you use Pokemon you don't use in like Go Battle League, and then also just, well, I guess against other Pokemon that you don't really see in those matchups. So with that said though, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, especially that subscribe one. Let me know how you sort of feel about the Ember Cup in terms of, are you going to try some more Spice? I have a feeling I might. Unfortunately, Chobanov didn't record their footage, so hopefully seeing their battles, at least in this last round, gives a little bit of a, I guess, an insider peek into how it might work and how you might want to implement some of those Pokemon into your own teams. And of course, I mean, factions exist as well, so it sort of works with factions. But yeah, don't forget to join the Discord as well, brand new, in the description down below. We're almost at 100 people now, almost, close. So maybe you could be lucky number 100. Ding, ding, ding. I don't know what you'd win. A high five, but digitally, and I'll send a hand emoji. And then you can send hand emoji, and we'll pretend that it was a high five. But yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to, well, thank you to the Patrons. Oh, there's all this stuff on top. Oh, well, bye, Steve. Yeah, thank you to my patrons and supporters on YouTube as well. And I will see you in the next video, whatever it may be. I'm really not sure at this point. I just don't know. So I'll see you then. We'll figure it out together.